That's right. Jumai, engineers, of course, and engineering will be celebrated each year and on this occasion, as well as the important contributions that the profession makes to modern life. Of course, engineers are essential for the resilience to climate change and in the design and development of infrastructure that will withstand increasing weather-related events, such as floods, cyclones, and bushfires, especially in developing countries that are exposed mostly to these risks.
Yes, Kingsley, and engineers are needed to design and implement technologies that will achieve the targets set at 21st Conference of the Parties, COP21, for the reduction of greenhouse gas emission and to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is the first and only international day to celebrate and recognize the achievements of engineers and engineering.
Well, it is useful to note that the 40th session of the General Conference of UNESCO in November 2019 adopted a resolution to proclaim the 4th of March of every year as World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development.
Exactly, Kingsley, and let me add that the theme for this year is Engineering for a Healthy Planet. You know, Kingsley, in spite of the importance of engineering in the world, you know, for our life and, you know, future, women have been historically underrepresented in engineering fields. Why is that so, you think?
Well, that's a very pertinent question, but of course, as you very well know, it's only in recent decades that the pedagogical process has been shifted to get women more interested in STEM, what is called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In the past, the attitude seemed to be that women, of course, shifted the way from mathematics, which is the foundation.
Yes.
I'm sure if you encountered further maths or additional maths, as was called in our time, you probably would take flight. But of course, that's just one aspect.
Let me tell you something. At that time, I just couldn't understand what the Indian teachers were telling me. Is it yen yen or yen yen? I hope you understand. So the language barrier was a problem then for those of us in the north trying to learn mathematics, add maths, and all that.
That's right. Yeah. Of course, it was called mass physics in those days. Very few women skate through. But it is interesting that in recent years we have seen increased enrollment of women in the STEM courses. And just by the way, the first female to have been the head of service of the Federation is an engineer. It's engineer Okeke. All right. So in the course of the program, of course, we shall take a look at that. But more importantly, as to the role of engineers in sustainable development in our environment. Now, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, women make, on the average, just about 22% of the total number of engineering and technology graduates each year, and only 13% of engineers are women. And the findings show that female engineers tend to earn 10% less than their male engineers. Well, Jumai, of course, these are matters, as I said, that we could take a look at to see what also explains the wage differential. But the critical issue, of course, has to do with the role of engineers and engineering in sustainable development, and that affects both men and women.
Yes, and at the same time, some Nigerian female engineers, like you said, the first head of service, are breaking the glass ceiling in this male-dominated profession, blending on innovation, wealth of knowledge and experience. Engineers make things happen around Nigeria and indeed the world, providing solutions to technical, electrical, scientific, agricultural and health issues posing threat to humanity. They truly deserve to be celebrated, Kingsley.
Well, that's right, Jumai, but they also have pertinent questions to ask as to why we are the way we are. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, broadcasting always from our Abuja headquarters studios. Thank you for being with us. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jumo Yusuf. We have our complimentary segments in the course of the program, but our Musbah Wahab is standing by for the morning news. Hello, Musbah. It's good to see you.
So good to see you too, Jubai and Kingsley. Good morning. The news. The Federal Executive Council has approved the change of scope in respect of the ongoing work on Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway from rehabilitation to full reconstruction. Consequently, the existing contract sum has also been changed from 155 billion naira to 797.2 billion naira. Works and Housing Minister Babatunde Fashola announced this while briefing journalists after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
And approved the request for that change of scope and the incidental cost consequence to provide for full reconstruction of the main carriageway and also trailer parks, way bridges, toll stations.
The Amalgamated Union of Food and Cattle Dealers of Nigeria suspended its strike action characterized by blocking the supply of foodstuffs and cattle to the southern part of the country. This followed the intervention by Governor Yahya Bello of Kogi State, mandated by the president to find lasting solutions to the problem in view of its impact on the nation's security and socio-economic well-being.
I have the mandate to resolve the issue, whereby there will be normalcy across the country. In order that we don't continue to have this hardship across the country, I've gotten the commitment of the union to lift their ban on the transportation of food items and livestock to the south.
We call of our nationwide strike. We need peace in this country. We need to maintain peace in this country. We're Nigerian.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to the Global Green Energy Initiative, stressing that the forthcoming deployments of 5 million solar power connections targeting 25 million households across the country under the Economic Sustainability Plan is just transition to net zero emissions by 2025. The Vice President made the submission during a meeting with a delegation of the European Union led by its Executive Vice President, Valdis Dombrovskis, while maintaining the advocacy that the international community should preserve financing for gas projects in Nigeria and other developing countries during the transition to net zero emission. Discussions of a meeting held virtually focused on bilateral investment agreements between Nigeria and the EU, cutting across diverse areas including technology, intellectual property rights, research and innovation, humanitarian assistance, energy access, and renewable energy. The Vice President said the federal government's commitment to energy transition is firm, as it is considered an area of comparative advantage the nation is hoping to leverage while working on improving the investment environments. The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, is warning petrol retail outlets engaged in hoarding, under dispensing and selling above the price band of 166 naira per litre to desist forthwith, leading a team for an on-the-spot assessment. Zonal Operations Controller, DPR Abuja, Buba Bubakar says, as a regulatory body, DPR will not condone short-changing of Nigerians.
Please stop hoarding. We are all out for them, and this exercise will continue till further notice. So they are warned.
I didn't waste time at all. Like yesterday, I joined a queue here, I didn't meet up, I need to go back to the house.
I think the situation is improving.
Now, between June 2018 and July 2019, almost half of the 10.9 million barrels of crude oil allocated for domestic supply was alleged to have been diverted. This cost Nigeria $339 million of revenue deficits. Now, House of Representatives is set to investigate the matter.
Of missing critical national revenue and is worried that unless these leakages are plugged, they will deepen the national deficit even further.
Bothered about the non-existence of an operational specialized national center for the treatment of skin diseases in Nigeria, the Senate is considering a bill to address the situation. Wednesday plenary was an opportunity for legislators to reflect on the dangers of the absence of such specialized center in the country.
And the dermatology hospital, Garkida Adama State, naturally fits all the requirements for a national dermatology hospital.
The benefit of people of Northeast, not only in Northeast, but other Nigerians who used to go to India and all the places to treat their skin diseases.
Government doesn't have to provide every funding for all the roads in Nigeria. There are some roads that we can do, construct, or build through PPP.
Now to updates on COVID-19 infections in Nigeria, as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 464 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figures released during bring the total number of confirmed cases to 156,963 infections in the country. A breakdown of new cases from 21 states plus the EFCC indicate that Lagos recorded the highest number for the day with 131 new cases, followed by Kaduna with 69 new cases. Others are Akwa Ibom with 33, Imo 31, Katsina 30, Kano 26, Ondo 23, Yobe 20, VFCT 18, Ogun 13, and Rivers 12 new cases. Other states include Kebbi with 11, Ekiti 9, Osun and Oyo 6 new cases each. Borno, Gombe and Plateau State recorded 5 new cases each. The day's tally is completed by Edo with 4 new cases. Abia and Delta recorded 3 new cases each, while Zamfara recorded a single case. A breakdown of confirmed cases by states indicate that Lagos has the highest with 56,132, followed by the FCT with 19,292, while Plateau State comes third with 8,928 cases. With the latest developments, 135,831 cases have been successfully treated and discharged, while 1,939 patients have died, unfortunately, from the virus. And that's the morning news on Good Morning Nigeria. The program will continue in just a moment with Kingsley and Jumai.
I bring you wonderful news. The village headmaster is coming back to your screen. Mo wire abi mi o wire. Teacher yo a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Teacher yo a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Ọmọ onírẹsì ti dé.
Ajebo na better school for last gidi. Not be all this on a rugged school for Ijabi. I don't know for you.
Second, it's called Oja Village. Kadesi, we no happy at all.
And I know that even you too, you are getting a lot of orders. Hey, we are trying, Shao. Sweep her leg out. She was standing there. Sweep it.
I love you so much.
And how did I give you the impression that I was interested in that position?
50-year anniversary.
You mean anniversary?
I talk with that now.
Not for me.
Not for me because of Pamio.
Should be
is ready to receive me a bundle of joy. Mommy is making my home cleaner and safer. We are Dettol Shore.
Illnesses can happen at home too. That's why Dettol and me together will make my baby's home safe and to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why moms want to be Dettol. Dettol Shore.
We are Dettol Shore.
Get your Milo FC Barcelona limited edition pack now before the final whistle blows on this promotion.
Loss in London last weekend, Burnley will take on another North London club as they seek to get back to winning ways. This Saturday, it's Burnley versus Arsenal on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTAi from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Go.com.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, accelerating the implementation of sustainable development goals in the country has led to a nationwide review of the social investment program of the government. Our correspondent, Timobi Walter-Naji, is standing by with that story and more in our business news segment.
The nationwide review is aimed at achieving Nigeria's part in the implementation of the SDGs and reducing poverty in Nigeria through government effort at lifting over 100 million Nigerians from poverty in 10 years. The Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, in collaboration with other development partners, has begun a 4-day stakeholders consultation and sensitization workshop for the Northeast and Northwest zones for the review of the National Social Protection Policy. The zonal consultation is also aimed at eliciting inputs on key social protection issues, identifying gaps, challenges and underlining priorities at the subnational levels of government. Declaring the workshop open in Kano, the Permanent Secretary, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Olushola Idowu, stressed that the zonal consultations were critical as Nigeria strived towards achieving the Nigeria Agenda 2030. Meanwhile, Central Bank of Nigeria has released 50,000 metric tons of maize into the Nigerian market in fulfillment of its pledge to reduce the price of the commodity. The release was done through the Anchor Borrowers Program to major poultry feed producers and poultry producers in the country. A release by the Corporate Communications Department of the CBN indicates that the facilitated release of the 50,000 metric tons of maize in the second week of February has made an impact as the maize market has recorded a reduction in price from 200,000 naira per metric ton to about 180,000 naira per metric ton. It is still anticipated that the current will further reduce. It will be recalled that the Central Bank of Nigeria had in January this year announced the release of 300,000 metric tons of maize into the Nigerian market. This is to bridge the shortfall in production and augment local production of the commodity. And we now turn our attention to the capital market, where investors lost 91.86 billion naira as the NFC All-Share Index dips further by 0.44%. Here is a graphic review of the closing figures on the floor of the exchange. With business news, I'm Chimobi Walter-Naji.
Thank you, Chimobi, for the business package. Let's now take our newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atebe, is with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Yume.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and just below the mass plates, we have Reps asks INEC to review federal constituency. You find all the details on page 24. NSAS, youth stole $2 million, 70 million naira from my palace. That's attributed to the Oba of Lagos. Food, cattle dealers lift ban on supply to the south. You find details on page 4. 101 soldiers abscond after Marte Dikwa attacks. That's our bold headlines there. With kickers, army freezes account, launches manhunt. De-radicalized Boko Haram fighters pick up arms again. That's coming from Borno State Governor Professor Zulum. Northeast Governor's more regional security outfit. And ACF, that's the Arewa Consultative Forum, asks Buhari to extend flight ban to Benue, Taraba, and Borno. We find details on page 6. At the bottom plate of the Daily Trust newspaper, Boko Haram frees Chibok pastor. That's some good news. Boko Haram frees Chibok pastor. You find details on page 6. Buhari to security agencies, shoot anyone seen with AK-47. Buhari to security agencies, shoot anybody seen with AK-47. You find details on page 4. One killed as Jangebe girls reunite with parents. One killed as Jangebe girls reunite with parents. You find details on page 6. And the picture story you see there is a scene of an accident along Airport Road, Abuja, yesterday. Kinsley.
All right. Let's take a look also at the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag, Boko Haram frees Pastor Bulus Yekura, taken to DSS office. That's on page 5. 2.3 million registered for COVID-19 vaccination within 24 hours. But I know you raised some concern yesterday about your inability to access the registration site. But this report here on page 5 is indicating that 2.3 million Nigerians have already registered for the vaccination, and this took place within 24 hours. Broadcaster and actor Sadiq Daba is dead. That's on page 4. Suswam's murder, declaration of war. Below the nameplate, food sellers and cattle dealers end north-south blockade. Presidency, bandits carrying AK-47 to be shot on sight. And the 3 riders, choppers refer to helicopters, ferry weapons and food to bandits in Zamfara. While federal government declared no-fly zone in the state, ACF Arewa Consultative Forum calls for extension of action to Borno, Benue, and Taraba. Northeast states, State Police. And below the photograph, 15 Ogoni pollution sites cleared, says federal government. 2 policemen killed, page 6. Bayo.
Well, our house must go out to one of our colleagues, our former colleagues, Sadiq Daba, who passed on to glory. Sadiq Daba came into national prominence for his role in Kokro Adon.
Petrus.
Yes, he was known then as Petrus. And Sadiq Daba had been down for a while, and he also fought back strongly for over a year now from his ailment. Our heart goes out to his family, and may his soul rest in peace.
When I got the news yesterday, the shock that vibrated through my system. You know, we were co-presenters on AM Express then,
yes.
and a very nice man who inspired people like me to aspire to be where we are today.
Sadiq is a lively character.
Yes, he is.
He affects any environment he comes with his liveliness.
Well, that's fine. Bayo, I mean, there's no question about that his admirers would miss him. May his soul rest in peace. But one thing I find a bit curious these days about an aspect of journalistic reporting, whether in print, online, or broadcast, there are styles for obituary writing, usually for important personages. If you say that a story is important enough for you to promote, then at least the bio brief of the individual should be indicated.
Yes.
These are the kind of things you find in reports in other outlets, particularly those that are based abroad. Usually they will have a database on important persons. You already have a library that has the data, so that once an obituary occurs, and it's something that's going to happen to everybody anyway at some point, you call it up and then you put what is relevant there, of course kicking off with the most important story. What are those bio briefs? How old was this person? You know, where was he born, or where was he raised? What was unique about him? What was his schooling like? Of course, you've mentioned his roles in Cockroach at Dawn, which was broadcasting, as well as AM Express, and then of course his role in Nollywood and the awards that he received. But there are other bio data, other information that you'll find. It is not just for Sadiq; it's mostly the same thing. And sometimes it's so I don't want to use the word ridiculous or worrying that when somebody passes on and then say the president or the vice president or some other important personality sends a condolence message, the condolence message is all that you will just find in the report. Nothing about the individual who has passed. So where is the information?
Well, you're talking about conventional journalism, and unfortunately, journalism, having been expanded, is also deteriorating in the sense that every news department that is worth its salt has a research department.
Yes.
And immediately such things happen, you just go there and you update your data.
Yes.
And you have all those biodata put in perspective. But these days, you have broadcasters, journalists who are in a hurry.
Yeah.
They call those what you are referring to as old school journalism.
Or analog.
Analog. They are digital. They are in a hurry, and they don't have time for all those background details you're talking about. The newspapers are reporting that the crackdown ordered by President Muhammadu Buhari on bandits, kidnappers, and other criminal elements terrorizing Nigerians across the country has now been extended. Senior Special Assistant Garba Shehu is quoted as saying, security agents have been given the order to shoot anyone found carrying AK-47 illegally. Helicopters that violate the no-fly zone slammed on Zamfara will be brought down. He says that there are reports that drones and helicopters are being used by miners who ferry weapons to the terrorists. Kidnappers, abductors are also to be neutralized, except they lay down their arms. Arewa Consultative Forum has praised the initiative, but is calling for an extension of that measure to Borno, Benue, and Taraba states. Meanwhile, the Northeast governors met in Bauchi yesterday under the auspices of Northeast Governors Forum, and the chairman of the forum, Governor of Borno State, called again for the federal government to explore involving mercenaries in waging the war against insurgency. He says, because it seems the commitment is no longer there, we must bring in external support and have mercenaries to end this insurgency. Part of the external support he called for includes support from our neighbors, especially Chad, Cameroon, and Niger Republic. This, he says, will provide a buffer joint action that will lead to the end of the crisis. It may be recalled that there is a joint military task force involving the same states that Governor Zulum has mentioned. In fact, when it was first incepted, General Burutai was the first commandant of the Joint Military Task Force. Later on, it was taken over by the current Chief of Defense Staff. And at that point in time, even the government of Benin Republic also volunteered to include troops to help that support. What has become of that Joint Military Task Force? But meanwhile, the governors are proposing that the Civilian Joint Task Force, it should be put together as a form of local police to provide security from those areas. In the other story of interest is the Oba of Lagos, Oba Rilwano Akiolu, says the NSAD rioters that invaded his Iga Idugara palace stole 2 million and 17 million respectively. The Oba said this happened between 20th and 23rd of October during the Saturday event of the NSAS protest, adding that Lagos suffered most. He called upon the federal government to assist the Lagos state government, particularly with the level of devastation. The royal father said that it was very reconciliatory, and he said that, as a father, I won't place any curse on those who invaded the palace. Meanwhile, the National Insurance Company says that they have had a claim totaling about 20.4 billion from destructions that happened in Lagos. The Director General of the Nigerian Insurance Association, Mrs. Yetunde Ilori, says 25 insurance companies recorded 1,661 claims.
Well, Bayo, just two stories to quickly comment on as well.
Yes.
The meeting that took place yesterday of the Northeast governors, where the idea of a state police was mooted, and which we were talking about earlier as to what has become of the multinational joint task force. Governor Zulum also raised the issue of engaging foreigners,
mercenaries,
to assist. Oftentimes, that's what I was going to comment on. The use of the word mercenary evokes all manner of ideas and images with regard to who mercenaries are and what they actually do. On Good Morning Nigeria, sometime in the past, I had mentioned that even some of the most powerful armies in the world, the U.S., they also use what we refer to commonly as mercenaries, but we refer to them as military contractors. Blackwater, for instance, is one of them. Some of those whom you find in the Middle East, whether in Iraq or parts of Syria or wherever they are engaged, some of them are military contractors. They also run into abuses. But if that is what Zulum is talking about, to say, look, because the good luck at Jonathan administration, yes, tried to engage some South Africans, and of course there were all kinds of objections to say that, oh no, our men are capable, so why do you bring in foreigners for this particular function, and so on and so forth. So it's an idea that the authorities may wish to consider, but not to label it as mercenaries. They may say foreign military contractors. I think that may well be more palatable. That's on the one hand. Second point, the same presidency said bandits carrying AK-47 to be shot on sight. AK-47 has now become the byword, as it were, for all kinds of self-loading rifles. AK-47 is one of the most powerful because of the effective range of a shot fired from it. Some have also talked about AK-49, which some Boko Haram elements use. So AK-47 is not just solely, there are all kinds of other rifles that are self-loading. So you don't say that, no, I wasn't carrying AK-47, which was another kind of rifle I was carrying.
A rocket-propelled grenade.
To the extent that you are in unlawful possession
of firearms.
Of that particular thing. Well, a dang gun is a firearm, but what we are saying, Bayo, is a self-loading rifle with a capacity to cause maximum havoc, and we know what that means, are those who are ordinarily caught by this.
The other story, therefore, relates to COVID-19. Yesterday, we had 464 new cases in 22 states. Unfortunately, we lost 16 Nigerians to COVID-19. Total cases now 156,963. Fatalities 1,939. Lagos still has the highest, 131. Kaduna was second, was 69. All the other, about 9 states have double digits, while 11 other states has 11 digits. But the World Health Organization is saying that it is unlikely that the pandemic will end in this year, 2021. Mike Ryan, the director for emergencies at the World Health Organization, says if we are smart and finish with hospitalization and deaths associated with the pandemic, if the vaccines begin to impact not only on the death and hospitalization, but also on transmission and dynamics of risk, then we will accelerate towards controlling the pandemic. But certainly, not within this year, 2021. Hopefully, maybe by the year 2022. So, whether vaccines are here or not, it still means that the non-pharmaceutical measures that we have to adopt to protect ourselves must also strictly be observed.
All right, Bayo, I mean, there's a story inside the paper. I'd just like to draw attention to this. As the Nation newspaper is on page 18. I mean, this is significant for a number of reasons. The headline says, Scholars Profile Solutions to Educational Problems in New Book. Praises for Okebukola at 70. Professor Peter Okebukola is, of course, one of the avid viewers of Good Morning Nigeria. It's also been a guest on Good Morning Nigeria whenever we've been talking about issues relating to university administration. It's been with us, as I said, on a number of occasions, mostly virtually now from Lagos or wherever he is in the country. It's been Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University.
Yes.
It's also been Executive Secretary of National Universities Commission. So he's turned 70, and the book, of course, has also come out in his honor. So we'd like to congratulate him on his formal exit, as it were, from the university. Of course, he's still around. He has a number of engagements around the African continent.
The other was the decisions by the Federal Executive Council yesterday. The Minister for Works and Housing indicated that there is going to be a reconstruction of the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway. Initially, the approval was for maintenance, but now it's going to be completely reconstructed. The approval is for 797.2 billion, and it's going to be in 3 phases. The first phase is for 74 kilometers. Kaduna Zaria Road is to be completed by the 4th quarter of 2022. The second phase is 137 kilometers. Zaria Kano Road, which will be completed 1st quarter of 2023. The third phase is Abuja Kaduna, 168 kilometers. It is expected to be completed 2nd quarter of 2023. Now, the difference here is that they found out that the pavements have deteriorated. Therefore, there's going to be a complete reconstruction, and the reconstruction will also cover some side lanes for the routes. Meanwhile, the Minister of Interior also had approval of about 10.4 billion for firefighting equipment. You know, we have had instances of fire, especially at markets across the nation. He also has approval for 353.2 million for data to reposition the Nigerian Immigration Service. The Minister for Humanitarian Affairs also had 2.13 billion approved for the National Social Investment Management System for its 4 primary programs.
All right, Bayo, something happened in Zamfara yesterday, at Jangebe.
Yes.
The story, of course, we have seen it in one or two of the papers, where the students were abducted. 279 of them were supposed to be reunited with their families after they had left Guzo, but a fracas broke out, and unfortunately, one person lost his life. We're just wondering. I mean, it's necessary to find out exactly what happened. There are all kinds of versions that the parents and guardians of the students were getting restless, because it seemed that some government officials or public officials had turned the reunion into an occasion for speechification and political grandstanding. That's one version. But what happened? Of course, if you hadn't seen your loved one for so long a time, and you were concerned as to what happened to the individual, then of course you needed to be sure what will happen. It's most unfortunate. Once they had been freed and 48 hours on, at this time they were not undergoing any medical or psychological examination. So why keep delaying them?
Luckily, I think they were not. They didn't evaluate the mood of the parents, because immediately that abduction was reported, some of the parents who visited the school were a little bit impatient, to the extent that they attempted to vandalize part of the school. But as luck will have it, these girls had one of the shortest stay by way of abduction. Within 4 days, luckily they were released. But for them to have also continued after traveling over 100 kilometers from Gusau back to Jangebe, for them to now start speech delivering was very inconsiderate. And therefore, they didn't understand the mood of the parent. But whatever the case is, they ought to have been patient because one life has been lost. That life cannot be regained again.
That's right.
Discretion is always the better part of valor, especially when you are in such emotional situations.
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the editorial. It's coming from the Punch newspaper. It's at page 16. Tasks before new EFCC chairman.
Well, the editorial is saying that congratulations to Abdurrashid Bawa, but he has his job cut for him. But the editorial is hammering on the fact that if you go back to the previous histories of the former chairman, they have always have brushes for their office of the Attorney General of the Federation, and the last one was not an exception. And therefore, the new EFCC chairman is being cautioned to be very careful as he steps into those murky waters of fighting corruption. And the editorial is also highlighting the fact that they are concerned that some high-profile cases seem to have been withdrawn. They have listed a few of them, and they are also expressing concern that so far, following the probe of the former chairman, ex-vice chairman, Ibrahim Magu, not much has been said, particularly the findings has not been made public. And the editorial is worried that some of those who came to serve as witnesses against Magu were actually persons who were being investigated by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Therefore, the editorial is pleading caution. Yes, if the war on corruption must succeed, support needs to be given to Abdurrashid Bawa, and Abdurrashid Bawa must realize that he's stepping into murky waters and he has to be very careful so as not to follow and make the same mistakes of his predecessors in office.
Okay, Bayo, thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you too.
We'll take a break right now. When we return, our conversation will begin. Do stay.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin NTAi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved Bonvita is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support, yes, by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria. Pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTAi.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people,
Government has signed the health protection regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. And use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. Do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTAi.
After a tough loss in London last weekend, Burnley will take on another North London club as they seek to get back to winning ways. This Saturday, it's Burnley versus Arsenal on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTAi from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Gold.com.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTAi. Before our conversation on the subject matter, let's take this background.
According to Albert Einstein, scientists investigate that which already is, while engineers create that which has never been. This resonates with the engineering profession, which plays a crucial role in creating infrastructure in the world, and it is fundamental to solving future global challenges. It is essential to the creation of social amenities like healthcare, quality education, and support infrastructure such as transport, power, water supply, agriculture, among others. In Nigeria, engineering is critical to the country's economic and infrastructural development. Experts maintain that the engineering sector, which has long stood as a major driver of growth, is an essential solution towards addressing the country's infrastructural deficiencies. The construction and telecommunication industries, which are booming sectors in the country in recent years and have contributed immensely to the country's GDP, are typical examples of the impact engineering has played and continues to play in Nigeria's sustainable development. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to commemorate the World Engineering Day 2021 with the theme Engineering for a Healthy Planet, how can Nigerian engineers utilize their profession towards ensuring a healthy and safe planet, as well as addressing Nigeria's infrastructural deficiencies? Guests on the program will speak to these and more shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Abdulsalam Jibril, for that backgrounder. With us in the studios now to discuss the ramification of this subject matter, engineering for sustainable development. Let's welcome our two guests in the meantime, Engineer Babagana Mohammed. He is the President, Nigerian Society of Engineers. Engineer Mohammed, pleasure to have you this morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Engineer Emeka Eze, past President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and also a former Director General of the Bureau for Public Procurement. A pleasure to have you with us.
Good morning.
This morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Jumai?
Yes. So let's begin with congratulations anyway on celebrating the World Engineering Day, and let's begin with giving us an overview of the theme for this year, which is sort of looking at the planet itself, and engineering has got a lot to do with sustaining our shelter, our economy, our technology, and all that. So just give it an overview of what this theme is all about and how we can be able to achieve
Thank you very much.
Healthy planet.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, my colleagues.
Yes.
Today is World Engineering Day, second in the series, been pushed by UNESCO. Theme: Sustainable Engineering for Healthy Planet. Engineering planet. Because engineers are responsible for making life better for everybody. The planet is now becoming a concern to all of us because that is where we are all living. So, based on this, UNESCO, pushed by WHO, WHO means World Federation of Engineering Organizations, which is a conglomeration of engineering organizations in the world, sat, met, and agreed that we should carve up a day and celebrate engineers and engineering. First, to make this world a better place for all of us. Coming from the background, just recent backgrounds, health issues on the front burner, COVID-19, Mr. COVID-19. Engineering has a lot to do to get rid of COVID-19 because there are engineering solutions from vaccine manufacture, from sanitizations, from all this would even lead to job creation, to make life better, means wealth creation too, to make life better again, and then so many other things. In the process, a lot of waste will be generated, waste will be converted to money. So it's a chain. So we are looking at it from a very holistic perspective. But the key thing is engineering and engineers are there to make world a better place for all.
All right. Thank you very much, President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. And we should also let our viewers know that, yes, engineering is important. The very first Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority is an engineer, and he is Engineer Vincent Maduka. Recall that when we celebrated 60 years of television in Africa and in Nigeria in 2019, he was one of our guests. He joined us from our Lagos Network Center. But again, let's return to the subject matter. Just to contextualize all of this, Engineer Emeka, is engineering for a healthy planet, which is not to suggest that engineering wasn't always there. Now that we're talking about a healthy planet, it means that our planet has been somewhat unhealthy, and engineering had also been contributory to this. But that, of course, the world is dynamic and engineering is also dynamic. How do we contextualize all of this in the context of today's celebration?
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit before I get to that background, that in 2019, UNESCO at the 40th General Assembly agreed to set a day, March 4th, which was the day that the World Federation of Engineering Organization was formed in 1968 to celebrate engineering, to highlight the importance of engineers and engineering in sustainable development. And so, coming from that, today is the birthday of World Federation of Engineering Organization. And so we are celebrating that basically to focus on what engineers and engineering can do to sustainable development. And it's all over. You've just mentioned that one of our fathers in engineering, Maduka, was your pioneer DG. If you look at your environment, starting from, if you wake up from your house, from the road, you see garbage all over the places. You see there's no water. Everything around to make life easy is all about engineering. But somehow, engineering innovation appears to be lacking, because engineering education and innovation is key. In the SDGs, it has 17 colors, which is 17 goals. And 4 of them are key to engineering. And what are those 4? Water, energy, sustainable infrastructure, and innovation. If you have water, if you have clean energy, you have sustainable infrastructure, and then you innovate on a daily basis, trying to improve existing one, then that's what makes a planet safe. And you agree with me that if you have water, if you take water for granted in every community, 50% of health issues are addressed, because there's so much waterborne diseases. But water, as basic as it is in human existence, cannot be taken for granted by most Nigerian homes, especially those outside the cities. Even those of us within the city cannot claim that they have water, especially public safe water. Therefore, as well as energy in the context of sustainable and clean environment, people are now moving from nuclear power energy to renewable energy that is safe to environment. And that's an area we need to focus on as a way of making sure that the climate change is addressed. Then, of course, sustainable infrastructure. You see them all over the place. Our road network is not there. It's ever challenging. And look around you, even as you're coming. I'm very happy driving into the NTAi here. The neighborhood has taken a good look. So we must give kudos to the FCT minister and his team for doing a good job. But beyond the central area, go outside and see how environment is. And that is key. And then that leads to the engineering, education, and innovation. That attention must be paid towards producing engineers that are not just only engineers by mouth with certificates, but engineers with skill, with the ability to think from first principles and generate basic indigenous solutions to indigenous problems. Because there are certain problems that are indigenous, that are due to our cultural threats that must be done and treated from domestic engineering. In doing so, our educational system and curriculum needs to be revisited so that the kind of curriculum that trained me as an engineer should not be the same curriculum that will be training young ones. But then you'll be amazed that if you go to most of our training institutions, the lab I used that was in PSI, pound square inches, to give me the strength of concrete is the same machine that they're using. Many a time the calibration is obsolete. It no longer gives the proper exact account. So people have to get the reading in PSI and then begin to convert in metric. And with all those conversion errors, you're sure that the facts you get will not be as exact as it is. So it's all about complex, that this today is to draw government attention to the need to focus on engineering, because without engineering, we cannot sustain the economy. Economy is great because the engineering is great. Everything you see about, from production to services, to adding value to food, to protection of the environment, to provision of power, to provision of water, everything there is engineering, including medicine. Because for the medical personnel to work, they have to biomedical engineers. The environment has to be clean. So government needs to look at our curriculum and see how we can revisit. I mentioned at one other forum that there's need for exchange of lecturers. In my time, we used to have lecturers from Imperial College or from India or from Pakistan, from Poland, come here, stay for 4 or 5 years, and then our lecturers will go there, stay 4 or 5 years, and in the process there will be intermixture of knowledge, because engineering is the same all over the world. So I think today is a day to celebrate engineers and engineering, and they tell government, each time people stay in their beautiful homes, beautiful cars, flying jets, let them know that what they are enjoying is the product of engineering.
The hard work of engineering.
The hard work of engineering and the engineers, including the dresses we wear, the good drinks we drink. If you go to the factories where they manufacture all these drinks, you respect those who had the initial thought to think about the bottling line and the quality control along each line. They're all engineering. So I'm trying to create a picture of what people do. As you even come to the NTAi, you see the complex wiring of cables all over the places, power everywhere. Without their colleagues, engineers, you can't be in the air. Or you go to the satellite, it's all over there. Somebody can send the satellite into the air, and then from there we're picking. That's all engineering. Yeah. So we begin to create the imagination of the young ones to think outside the box and create things. That is what engineering today is all about.
Do we have the ability to evolve with the times? I mean, a level playing ground for Nigerian engineers compared to other engineers around the world. The opportunities, do we have it here to move with the times just like the world is moving? We're in a new normal. Technology is the new oil. Can we do that in this country?
Yes, we can. We're already doing that. Okay. You're already doing that. You'll be amazed when you see the level of innovation by young ones, right? The only challenge we do is to have these policymakers have a little bit trust in them and give them chance to make mistakes. Because when people are not given opportunity to try their hands, it remains an idea. An idea not implemented remains an idea. But at government institutional levels, especially government, because private people, because of the profit nature of the orientation, may not want to take risk with private people, right? But government policy at a certain level must deliberately give a chance for new things to be tried, without having to say, oh, where has he done it before? He doesn't have this experience, he cannot do this, we cannot take a chance on him and all that. But there's need for us to take a chance on our young ones. When they develop programs on our ICT solutions, we must try it and have some space for improvement without trying to totally, without totally condemning them or destroying them. Because with that, we give them confidence, we build the capacity. Naturally, they will make mistakes. It will not be as good as the others, but over time, they will improve. To me, we have enough of our guys who can do better, and if only opportunities are created for them.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Babaga. Now, let's return to you. Talking about the quality of engineering education in the digital age, how much of an intervention has the Society of Engineers tried to make in terms of curriculum reform and also in terms of being adjunct faculty, that's to say, sharing experience between industry and those who are in school?
I think, let me just give you a very short narration so that you understand the whole thing. Yes, it's far back, it isn't too good, which is okay. But when I came on board as president of NSC, one of my priorities is I chose 6 universities and 6 polytechnics in the 6 geopolitical zones. To ascertain, first I have to ascertain the level of their preparedness for everything. What are the status of their engineering facilities? And amazingly, what I found wasn't too good. Because I don't want to mention the names of the schools or where I have been to, but the first point of call was a university in the north here. And I was taken around the lab. Even the obsolete equipment that we had are not working. Yes, they are obsolete. Assuming they are obsolete and working, somebody can go and put his hand and know it from first principles. Then we wait for a new machine or a modern machine upgrading. But even the obsoletes are not working. So by this, what am I saying? That means you just come in, see the machine, and go out. There's a gap. There's a gap. And in some cases, I met CNC machines, modern machines, then brought to this country, installed. Up to today that I'm talking here, they are not working. They have never worked. And I asked them silly questions. Who gave this contract? Who commissioned it? Who signed it off? And why is it not working? The first hit I got was, the manuals are in Chinese. I said, If it's in Chinese, then what? Because for it to be installed here, somebody must have gone to China and be trained in Chinese so that he can read the papers and operate the machine. That isn't a problem for me. But they said nobody went. So who installed this machine? Some people came, the contractor came and installed it and went away. Who commissioned it? Has it been paid? Virtually, I should think, 15 years down the line, he must have been paid because he's a contractor. So what is this machine doing here? He's just standing, occupying a seat or a space in the lab. That isn't too good. That isn't too good. And I found similar things in the 3 others that I visited. That's not what it should be. As rightly been said, our problems are indigenous problems. So we should have indigenous solutions. Because it is only those who knows where it pinches them will know how to solve all these issues. And for even these machines, some of these machines, I made them obsolete. And I was asking even those I made there, I said, what is responsible for this machine not to work? I said, this one sharp. This one small thing. I said, but this thing can be done here. Why are you cutting? Then I resolved. I gave them a template. I said, please fill this template and return back to me. I'm telling you what I met and what I discovered. And when I asked them to give me the cost they want me to buy this thing for them, the cost they are giving me and what I came up with in my office is like 1 to 10. 1 to 10. These are things that I can do. To be very honest, my cost was 99 million. And the cost they are giving me was like $1 billion. So now, who do you even, in the first place, who do you even trust now? These are things that can be done. I have machine tools all across Nigeria. These machines are out of place because of certain functions, certain parts. I can machine them. I can machine them here in Nigeria. I don't need to buy them anywhere. That's why machines are standard. Parts are interchangeable. That's why you are an engineer. You just get the part. More so now, we have what we call 3D machines. You design everything from, and then you just go to the factory, to your lead machine, and you mill it out. Simple.
I was just wondering, Engineer Abagana, as you were speaking, well, it's not a very palatable story. But what were the next steps? Because, well, of course, some persons would argue, oh, this is the reason why ASU has always gone on strike. But we also see the downside. Did you then try to follow up, for instance, with a contact to the office of the TED Fund, Education Trust Fund? Because the Executive Secretary is a very active person.
Because when I said CNC machine, certainly they are brought in by TED Fund. Certainly. That's where very good thinking. The bottom line is, I have not concluded my movement.
That's right.
I want to conclude and aggregate every point. And for me, as a non-governmental body, if I approach TED Fund, for me, I felt it's not going to do anything for me. What I felt very good for me,
it will do something for your society.
First, yes. For me, what I felt is I will go out and raise the money and first do this work, make these machines working, put my name there, and then now, when I've done 1 or 2 workshops, that's when I will now approach those people and ask them what is their problem. Because there's a problem somewhere. But before you solve any problem, you must do your own bit. I need to at least clear 2 workshops or 3 workshops from my little revenue. I don't want to ask anybody. Because now there are donor fatigues everywhere. Nobody's ready to give you any money. So I don't want anybody to give me any money. I will use my Nigerian engineers. I will still appeal to them to donate to me. They have done that before. They will still donate to me. And this is what I'm going to use the money to donate to me. And I will use it exactly for that purpose. And by that time, then I can now approach, if it is the Minister of Education, or if it is the TED Fund, I will write to somebody and I will make it very public so that I will just stay in my office and they will come to me.
Okay. Thank you, Engineer Abagana Mohammed.
They will come to you and meet
you. Come to me.
Yes. Why we are still on this narrative by the president of the Society of Engineers? I want to bring in Engineer NTAi, who was Director General of the Bureau for Public Procurement.
Bureau of.
Public sometimes the prepositions can be a bit troubling. Like Commissioner for Information, Commissioner of Information, Minister of this, Minister for this. All right. Thanks a lot, Engineer Eze.
Thank you.
One of the key aspects that we find, because when we're talking about sustainable development, it also means the availability of resources, the judicious use of resources, and so on and so forth. Listening to Engineer Abagana, your colleague, this is probably a common thing that we find. The extravagant cost of public engineering works. You are told sometimes that this is probably the environment where costs are 3 or 4 times higher than anywhere else in the world. And it is, in the meantime, we are the ones who also mouth the most international best practices. But when it comes to judicious costing of projects, we are never there. Just what is wrong from the engineering perspective, plus, of course, your experience in BPP?
Yes, this has been an ongoing debate and discussion over the years because of issues pertaining to the economy. And that's one of the reasons why Nigeria embarked on procurement reform, to ensure that government derives value for money in all their public expenditure. And key to that is transparency and proper identification of needs. Many a time we embark on procurement without fully identifying and specifying our needs. And then you suddenly wake up and say, oh, you have a brainwave, I want to do this. And they ask him, how much does it? He doesn't have an idea. He just goes and gets a figure, just put 1 billion. And then that happens. And then when you now advertise for the project, and then the reality comes, you suddenly, oh, I have provided 1 billion in the project. But meanwhile, the actual need is 4 billion. And then some people say, oh, so I don't want this money to lapse. Let's just quickly do something. You will make a commitment. And then you go to the field. And then suddenly you are confronted with the reality of the ground. That you need more than 1 billion to get the job done. Then the issue of revalidation and readjustment will come. And then we all know, all of us in this country, and it's a public knowledge, you have it 1 billion in the budget. Actual fact, at the end of the year, what gets released to the ministry to pay may not be up to 40%. Right? And meanwhile, the contractor has performed or has an outstanding certificate. You hear the Minister of Works, Fashola, BRT, shouting house every day that he has outstanding certificates of about 300-something billion to pay. So government is left with nothing because the money is not there, and that's the truth. And so when people shout that Nigeria is, and in the course of doing this project, there's economic changes. Sometimes you needed 159 million naira to get $1 million. But now you need about 389 million naira to get the same $1 million.
410.
410. So these are facts these are the realities on ground. And so if I were to import any of these NTAi facilities that are dollar denominated, and you give a contract for $1 million, for instance, at 150 million at that time, and you're not able to pay, and now naira is 410. Do you still expect the contractor to bring it at 159 million naira? Is it possible? It's not possible. So it's good for people to talk that things are, no, it's not true. Things are not. So, but when you do proper project design, project analysis, procurement plan very well, and do consistent policy and project implementation and release over a period of time. In some cases, a project that would take 4 years, some people will go and budget the whole money in 1 year. Or you have a project of, say, 5 billion. Somebody will go and put 100 million on it as a budget and make a commitment. How do you start? Why do you blame the minister or the ministry? It's all about totality of our idea of procurement. That first of all, you must start with proper needs assessment, proper full engineering design and scoping by people who understand the job. Many a time when you get people who don't understand the job, they can't think to imagine all the possible risks that could be associated with the project. They don't do soil investigation along the project route. So suddenly you may find that, from Challenge 1 to Challenge 2, there's a rock outcrop that needs to be blasted. It's not there. Or from Challenge 2 to this, there is a massive layer of clay, for instance, that needs to be excavated. Sometimes we're doing a project between Kano and Maiduguri, and people will not imagine that there's a section where you have to evacuate 3 meters of clay before you can even and you have to stabilize it. But if you didn't do your proper feasibility studies and engineering design, you will not. Somebody who is not trained will be looking at the surface. Oh, I did a road somewhere. It cost me 1 billion. Now, why should this one that is maybe less in length costing me more? Without looking at the details.
So a related question, Jumai, to what you are saying. Engineer Eze and Babagana may also respond to this. Are engineers listened to along the lines that you are speaking? To say, look, somebody says, just put this one in the project, let's just start something. And you are saying, look, get your design right, get your scoping right, so that when you get to the field, you don't get stuck. Are engineers listened to?
Yes, I would say yes and no. One, because even at the government level, government, I'm aware, has issued a circular saying that before you can award a contract, you must have your full design. It's there as a policy document. But is that what we are getting? The answer is no. If you pick 2002, I have a copy of 2021 budget, for instance. There are a lot of new projects that are included.
Some were signed yesterday too, approved yesterday.
Good. Not from the executive arm.
Okay.
Because before executive arm goes to National Assembly, they have done their job with some focusing on ongoing one that have gotten engineers designed, specification built, and everything ready. But somewhere along the line, in the course of interacting with the National Assembly, one way or the other, new programs that have not been planned and designed will get into the budget, whatever name you call it. And when they get into the budget, you have no specifications. Most of them, monies are just thrown at the ministries. I said, put this one here. And then the money gets in there. And then the ministry will be struggling on how to implement the budget because they have no details. And in the course of doing that, they quickly make a commitment. And then when commitments are made, you don't have details. And that's why we're here. And so whether engineers are being listened to, it is for them in the ministry to say whether they're being listened, but I know government has issued a circular saying before you award a contract, you must have full final design.
Okay, Mr. Eze, thank you. Let's come back to Engineer Babagana. They said developing engineers and engineering for sustainable development. And he has talked about transparency and proper identification of needs. How does that happen? How do we do it? Because for us, you said indigenous problems should be solved by indigenous people. Yeah. So how can we achieve this, training engineers and making sure that we get the best out of them?
First and foremost, engineering training is very expensive. And it's only the most brilliant, or let me put it this way, people who are above average that read engineering. Apart from the cost, even the manpower, the person who is to read engineering has to be above average. When these things are sorted out, now, it will now taking us to capability. Do we have the capability? Yes, capability is good. But government must, I use the word must, deliberately encourage its indigenous engineers and engineering. You need to grow it deliberately. Anywhere you see engineering growing is deliberately being grown by government. In this part of our world, because we are coming up, we reach a stage where you no longer require government. But as it is today, because we are developing, government must, as a matter of policy, deliberately encourage and grow engineering. How? That's the question. How? And are there any examples? People may want to know. Of course, yes. As close as Dubai here, UAE, in the last 10, 30 years, 15 years, 20 years, it was a desert. Today, it was the world's best infrastructures environment. How? Who? And now, who are managing it? The same people in Kuwait, in Dubai, the indigenous are managing it. How do they get to that level? Of course, they are all brought from outside, yes, but they tie in their indigenous engineers and people to every assignment, to every work. Today, they are managing those works. And you give contact to your indigenous people. Ask them to look for partners outside. It's done everywhere. But if you don't give them contacts, you are always looking for foreigners to give your contacts to. And you want them to go out and navigate their way through anyhow and get into those works. You are not encouraging them. You are not encouraging them. That means you are not growing engineering. You are not growing engineering. Just take an example. Railway. When railway came on board, 1960, before we are born. Of course, they brought railway to Nigeria. But afterwards, after everybody has gone, when we were born and we came up, we saw people who are managing railways are the same people, are the same Nigerians. They manage railway to a very good limit until when they collapse. They collapse because there were no support. They collapse because they cannot manufacture, they cannot do this, they cannot do that. So they collapse. But they have maintained it for a very long time. Take NEPA, for example. They brought in NEPA, but people work in NEPA and excel. And people excel. People held NEPA for quite some good time.
They held ECN, not NEPA.
Yeah, thank you, ECN. NEPA is my time. You are ECN.
Yes,
you are ECN. So you can understand. ECN, yes. So you can understand all what I'm saying. These are social things. Yes. Because I'm NEPA, you are ECN. Somebody is railway. Somebody is this new rail line. PACN. All these discourse.
They are evolutions. NEPA.
Okay, fine. But those of us at that level. At our level, we call it NEPA.
But Engineer Babangana, there's an important point that you have raised. I know, again, this is a contentious point because we have had some political actors, government officials on Good Morning Nigeria, and they have a counter-argument to the point that you are raising. Sometimes their view is that, no, you are making this argument because you just want contracts. And they talk about availability of local capacity and so on and so forth. That's the point to respond to. But much more directly, the Local Content Act 2010 was intended to open up an avenue for participation of Nigerians. And there have been a few success stories narrated by the Content Development Board based in Yenagoa, where Simbi Wabote has been our guest on Good Morning Nigeria. But tell us, I mean, how much of a game changer has the Local Content Act been, and what more needs to be done to ramp up local participation by engineers and indeed others in the field of engineering activities leading to sustainable development?
Yeah, thank you. Remember, the idea of sustainable development is ensuring that you meet the needs of the present day without jeopardizing the needs of future, by ensuring how you use the natural resources and all that without abusing them. As you are, for instance, cutting one tree, you plant two more to make sure that there is sustainability. Coming back to what you said, the Local Content Industry Act, as it is, was targeted at the oil and gas sector principally. And they have done very well, very well, as we can see. But it's not a one-day fix. It's going to be a process, a gradual thing. But then, at the bigger level, the president has, there's a lot of legislations. One, government has issued Executive Order number 5, which is very critical. The Public Procurement Act has a provision for domestic preference. The current Nigerian Council for the Regulation of Engineers Act has a provision for expatriate quota limitation. The Immigration Act has a limitation on expatriate quota limitation. So, in terms of legal instruments, we have them. But the problem is in the implementation. When government says, maybe some people think that before a procurement process starts, that certain commitments have been made. And that tends to make it difficult for those who do evaluation to be serious or to be consistent with the criteria. The law says before you get an engineering job, you must be Korean registered, certified, which is being followed religiously by the BPP. I can attest to that. Even up to today, they do that. And when that happens, who are you blaming? Nobody. The government has done what they need to do. There's Executive Order 5 that says job engineers must lead. And if you notice recently, as a government gives awards a contract, it says this has potential of job creation and empowerment of our people. The problem we do have is that we are not yet gathering the data in such a manner as to present to Nigerians the effect. Because the engineers are involved in one way or the other in those ones. But to me, while we're looking at the end result, we should look at the input level. How are we producing engineers? Are we producing engineers with certificates? Are we producing engineers with skill? Who can, after a few years of guidance, can become useful? I'll tell you an example of what I had. A young person came to me looking for a job, a civil engineer. And as a way of testing him, I said, okay, I brought my theodolite and asked him, gave him, your interview is that, do me, run a level from one point of my office to the other and give me the high difference. Those of us engineers know what a theodolite is. And 1 hour, 2 hours, I didn't see the guy. Then I came out. It's a theodolite with had 3 tripod like this. And the man was transfigured. I said, my brother, what are you doing here? He said, okay, I don't know. He doesn't know how to set it up before even talking. I gave him the everything.
And he's a graduate.
He's a graduate looking for work, a civil engineer. So he said, and he had 5 years, he never saw a theodolite. He never used one. So how can he now take level and do height difference?
It goes back to what Engineer Mohammed was talking
So
earlier. Yeah.
that engineering education. So if somebody went to university, a civil engineer, he has never seen a theodolite. Not to talk about level instrument. There are two different things. Theodolite that will give you angles and all that. How much more? He has not seen a level instrument that will tell you different heights and then where to cut and where to fill.
In 5 years of training in university,
there is no level instrument.
Yeah, well,
so how can you produce
there used to be some mischievous engineering students in those days when they were doing their practicals with some of these instruments, you know, so we can get the range. Yeah. They normally would go near the female hostel where they would set
so that the female girls, will, you know, the female.
No. I will stop her.
Okay, you know, it's hilarious.
Yes.
It feels painful.
But it's very serious.
It's a serious situation we're looking at now.
Yeah.
And we're looking at sustainability, which goes across all sectors of the society. So how do we generate sustainability solutions now in this country?
Government, as the final authority in change, must come with aggressive, consistent policy through policy monitoring. We have a lot of policies hanging all over the places, all over. We are not devoid of policies. But there has to be a way of deliberate, challenging people. When we were coming here, we were having discussion with the executive director, and he said the DG challenged the engineers to do something. And the engineers felt challenged and lived up to it. Government should challenge engineers with 1 or 2 issues, one at a time. Yeah. Trying to do all of them at a problem with one at a time.
And sir, I kept telling everybody. So I went to some forums and people were talking. We don't have capability. I told them, no, we have capability. Tell me the job. Give it to me. Give me my timelines and wait for me. Give me the job. You do not give me job. You are saying you don't have the capability. Who did you ask? I asked the person. Who did you ask? Say this engineering job, we don't have capability. I said, no, I have capability. Did you ask me? He said, no. I said, who are you talking to? Say, I know there's no capability. I said, no, you don't know. Baba Gana will tell you if there's capability or no capability. Engineering, you ask me, then I'll tell you, I don't have capability. But I'll tell you, I have capability. But people don't even come out to ask. They just sit down and assume they are not capabilities. How?
Well, in a sense, gentlemen, you've spoken about this, and just before we take this break, while we are still on this subject matter, just tell us, what is the impact of poor politics on engineering outcomes? Because when we say we are a developing, some will say underdeveloped country, water, energy, whether it is power or whether it is fuel, we have 4 refineries, none of them is working, whether it's infrastructure or innovation, but more particularly, that's right. Let's just take water. Water. I mean, I've said it here on several occasions. When we were growing up, there were taps. Now everybody has a borehole. We didn't know what the borehole was in our time. Yeah. Everybody now has a generator. We didn't know what generators were like in our time. So how much of a negative impact does poor politics play on engineering outcomes?
In fact, you have captured it very well. Engineering has a lot to do with leadership, political leadership. Your political leaders must understand engineering. Sometimes when we talk, I feel not too happy because people will always look at it from a biased angle. They will tell you, no, engineers are trying to create jobs for themselves. And I tell them, no. We are having enough in our hands. It's not about me. I kept telling people, look at this environment. This is Nigeria. Nigeria or Africa. It's an infrastructure deficient nation, infrastructure deficient country. We are, the engineers are supposed to lead in because we understand the language of infrastructure. Infrastructure has a language. You can only be an engineer to understand that language. Any other person, you can only say what you feel about it, but engineers will interpret the language. But people here, in fact in Nigeria, everybody is an engineer.
Yeah.
In Nigeria.
A technician is an engineer.
Not even a technician. Somebody who read BA Islam, BA Arabic, is an engineer in Nigeria. Because I had so many places where I visited and I had their transport officer is in admin. He has BA English or BA admin, he's transport officer. When you ask them how, they will tell you, he's not motor, he has car, so he knows how to fuel it. He's no generator, he has it in his house, and he can service it. I say, okay, yeah, he can service it. I know very well. Thank you very much. So I keep quiet. I don't want to get angry unnecessarily because these are simple things. We reach a stage. Now, take America or somewhere, or China. In those places, they have reached the climax. They don't say these positions or these things must be filled by engineers or by anything. No, because they have reached where they are reaching. What they are doing at that level is management. We have not reached that level. The stage we are now, we need professionals in professional positions. Key, if it's an engineering ministry, it should be an engineer. With due respect. I don't have grudge against anybody, but that's how it is. If it's water resources, it has to be an engineer because he understands the language. When we reach that stage, people will say the world is now 21st century. I say no, we are at 19th century. We are Nigeria in the 19th century.
No, in some respects. Because in the 19th century, you didn't have television. So you're on television now.
So this is what is now going to bring the confusion. This is what is going to cause the confusion. Because
know how to operate it.
Because no, that's why I want to put it very right and very clear now. When people are holding big phones and they are looking at this television, they will assume, yes, we are in the 21st century. I told them no. You are a privileged few. Just look at your next door neighbor. He doesn't have water. Doesn't have food. He cannot pay children's school fees. No medical facilities. Which people who are in the 21st century are people who have overcome poverty. Are people who have overcome water issues. They don't talk of water. Water is flowing 247.
They talk of this.
They don't talk of light. They are always taking. I want to go to the moon for holidays.
They are on Mars already.
I'm just telling you all this. I want to go for holidays. These are people who are 21st century. You that is battling with coronavirus and cholera, disease, water, this, you are not in the 21st century. Of course, among the equals, there are always equals, which is okay. Which is okay.
Okay, Engineer Babagana, you get to respond to that. You've raised some pertinent questions. We will have to take a break right now. When we return, the conversation, which is getting very interesting, will continue.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTAi stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin NTAi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTAi, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
After a tough loss in London last weekend, Burnley will take on another North London club as they seek to get back to winning ways. This Saturday, it's Burnley versus Arsenal on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTAi from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up, in association with Gold.com.
You're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. Engineer Eze, you were trying to respond to some of the things Engineer Babagana, raised while he was responding to my question. But before you answer that, and I need to ask you another question. Why is it that women are not encouraged, to study engineering? Is it because it's too tedious, or is it because people think they are not capable of doing it? I was doing this research yesterday, and I found out that in Dubai, they went to space, and 75% of the personnel that made it possible were women. That's going back to girl-child education. So why is it in Nigeria that we don't encourage our children? We let them go and read political science. Are they not capable?
No, women are very, very multi-skilled and they're capable. It's all about cultural issues. Okay. It's all embedded in our culture. Women are brought up to feel that they're soft. They shouldn't do hard things and all that. And they grew up with that in the family, right? And over time, that began to affect. But it's changing. At the level of Society of Engineers, we've had engineers who are vice presidents, And my own first daughter is an engineer up to PhD level. And several of such prominent, the wife of Madoka as
the wife of Zulum, one of them is an
all of that there.
Then why have we not had a female president of the Society of Engineers?
Well, it's all about the population. We don't have as many women engineers. In my own class, my own time, we had only one girl in the whole faculty, and everybody was looking at her as a man. Because if you watch this wrestling, there's a lady they call the man. The wrestler.
That's Becky Lee.
Becky Lee. Is the only man. Yes. So few women who had the courage to study engineering were seen as men. Yeah. Because it's better in our culture that women should not be engineers. But it's changing. People are beginning to see that it's changing. So that's perfect. But those who are there are doing us very proud as women. Yeah. All our women engineers are doing extremely, extremely very well. So before
of recent, we made support to girl child education. In Borno last year when I went to Maiduguri, the governor sponsored 99 girls scholarship on my name, Babagana Mohammed Engineering Scholarship for ladies. Wow. And last 3-4 months, another woman, Honorable Dr. Zeno Gimba, member of House of Reps, sponsored 350 girls. She had a foundation that she wanted to sponsor 350 girls from that her side in Maiduguri to read engineering. I was so happy. I was so happy. I was so happy. And what actually took me to Maiduguri was NNPC gave me scholarship for 10 girls in Maiduguri. When I was launching 10, the governor came in. He said, "No, my brother, you cannot have 10 because we do a thorough selection process." But the governor said, "No, the 99 that are remaining, I'm also giving them. They are part of it." And he gave them, and they all had their scholarships. So girls of recent, in my last council meeting, I raised women participation in our activities.
Yeah.
When Beijing conference is 35, I took it to 42. In every of my appointments, I insist if we are 3, one must be a woman. In every appointment.
Or 2 self.
No. Let me be very fair. Let me be very fair. In every 3 slots that I have, I insist one must be a woman. And of course, people will tell you they are coming up. Of course, that's how you bring them up.
That's right.
You need to bring them up close to you. Let them see what the elders and men are doing, so that once we step aside, they can grow in and take over. Yeah. So the possibility of having a woman president in NAC, of course, is very possible. It's very, very possible.
Going forward. That's going
forward. Going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, Engineer Eze.
I want to react to the issue of bad politics on engineering.
Yeah.
Because I want to just on sustainable development. And I want to use the issue of water, for instance. At a time in the past, you will see, if you pick every budget from 1999, you will see boreholes. Then after the boreholes have been dug, handed over to the communities, then after 6 months, something happens, and that's the end of the borehole. Then we have a situation where then we have issue of solar street lights. Solar street lights appeared. Every community you see solar street lights. It works for 6 months, and then there's need for change of battery. That's the end of the story. Or the battery is stolen by people.
Who will sell it back to the government again?
They will not even sell it to the government. They will sell it to themselves because it's too. They will see like 2 or 3. They won't sell 2 or 3 to the government. They will use it for themselves. I'm addressing the issue of sustainable development and politics. In some communities, when we went for budget implementation, you see one line being done by REA, Rural Electrification Agency. Then you have another line on the other side of the road. This is state electricity line.
Another line. Another one being done by NDDC.
Then another one being done by one honorable member or one senator. At the end, none is working. But money has been paid.
Yes.
That's right.
When ordinarily, if there was a kind of a development plan, either by the state, because the members of National Assembly, by my own understanding, I may be politically naive, but they are there to support, represent their states in the National Assembly, and then work with their state governors for sustainable. And so when the state government, I had expected that the constituency projects are not meant for the way they are being used. That the constituency projects basically should be used to support federal obligations in the states. What I mean federal obligation is that if federal government is building, say, Onitsha-Owerri Road, and it's federal obligation, and the budgetary allocation is not enough from Ministry of Works, all these senators in that place, all the members of House of Reps that are there, from whatever they will have, they will put it in that budget to augment that project so that that project gets delivered because it's a federal obligation. But then when you begin to use that money to go and do borehole, yes, they will get applaud. But then when the borehole is spoiled, nobody repairs it. And when the cables are laid, they are not energized. People go and steal the aluminum cable and melt them to go and get spoon. Money has been spent. And so that is the effect of the bad politics in sustainable development. You spend money, and every year, but go back after 5 years, those projects are not there.
Okay. Oh, Engineer Eze, well, you're sort of bringing to light the problems faced by engineers across the country. Now, some tweets have come in. Nigerians want to contribute to the conversation. We start with Butano Farouk. Congratulations to all the engineers in Nigeria and beyond. Special congratulations to all the engineers in the NTAi family. Thank you. Meanwhile, I urge Nigerian engineers and other related professionals to design a practically oriented scheme for primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions.
That's technical education. Technical education.
Yes.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon has a nice tweet. As we commemorate World Engineering Day today, the professionals in engineering and infrastructure must profile ways to effectively unlock opportunities in solving our infrastructure and urban development challenges in Nigeria.
Yes, and Suleiman Babagana tweets, engineers contribute immensely to the development of the nation in so many ways, and this can be consolidated by training institutions, impacting knowledge according to global best practices and standards for effective delivery of infrastructure.
Titus Mondenonk, indigenous engineers are not being given the opportunity to fully develop their potentials to contribute to the nation's development. We prefer to use foreign artisans and cheap labor or casual laborers in their place. By the way, those artisans and cheap labor, they are not engineers. Let's just get that
At all.
This is one of the primary causes of technology deficit in Nigeria.
And Chris Simon, a serene environment should be created for engineering students in tertiary institutions, technical institutions, to showcase their skills that would enable them to come out with innovations for the purpose of infrastructural development.
Steve Bond 007, that's the Twitter handle. What is the use of 5 years in the university if Nigerian engineers upon graduation are not given contracts to build roads and bridges? Nigerian engineers can do better than their foreign counterparts.
And Festus Akimboyewa says, as our population is growing, we depend on our engineers to sustain many crucial aspects of our lives. Sadly, though, our engineers have been sidelined in building our rail, energy networks, airports, transport, waste and water. It is time they are given the task to build our infrastructure.
But I must say, Haruna Adamo, our engineers can address Nigeria's infrastructural deficiencies as well as ensure a healthy and safe planet by maintaining their ethical values against monetary values, as this will safeguard their reputation.
And Bello Muhammad tweets, Nigerian engineers are supposed to advise and assist the government in critical infrastructural maintenance. Annual budgetary provisions for maintenance of infrastructure is inadequate, and what is often provided is not properly applied.
In the course of this conversation, there have been about sound bites that you two gentlemen have dropped. One that I want to bring up now, it says, look, indigenous solutions to indigenous problems. Challenge Nigerian engineers. There are a number of locations where you have this. But let's take the Southeast, which Engineer is very familiar with. The Southeast perhaps has the highest number of erosion sites. And we see how expressways that are constructed fail after a short while. They blame it on sheet erosion and all that. The Southeast wasn't always like this. What can be done to challenge Nigerian engineers to say, look, either through your design or through your maintenance schedule, we want to change the narrative about erosion sites. I know that there is this MAP program that they have. We also want to change the design of our roads so that the roads will last much longer. And that way, you are profiling indigenous solutions to indigenous problems. After all, we saw what happened during the Civil War. I mean, we saw the kind of ingenuity that came about from the Biafran enclave. Why are we not seeing that now?
I think we're doing that, except that people don't remember the context, tend to forget about the context. In the past, the development that we are having in the Southeast were not there. You still had bushes and forests that were keeping the water in ground. So with each government building up new roads and opening up new roads, you are increasing the runoff. And then pushing them into an area that, without addressing the drainage system. I happen to have chaired the Federal Presidential Committee on South Erosions and sometime, and I saw that even when properly done, the activities of our people tend to create more erosion. I will give you an example. There was a Shagari project called RUNASCO in 1981-83 that addressed the erosion problem in Anambra State. Perfectly done. And my community happened to have benefited from that. And ever since it had been. But somehow along the line, something that came up as a little erosion underneath it. And I was telling people, the other side, I said, hey, this thing is coming, let's go fix it. They ignored it. I had to personally use my money to go and spend like 50,000 to get concrete to patch it. The other community didn't. And they allowed it. And over time, the thing broke. And then destroyed the embankment. And then I moved all the earth that had been held up, and then came into the stream and blocked the waterway. And so what could have cost 1 million naira, today, as I'm talking to you, it will cost a lot less than 5 billion to fix. So part of it is getting agencies that are responsible to intervene before things get worse.
So where are the engineers in those agencies, where in the public service, don't they do their routine checks, write their routine reports, and insist on getting things fixed?
They can't insist. I have another example where I told one of my engineers in this Abuja, where I live in Karo, and I will move around as I do my exercise around the neighborhood. I see erosion. Sometimes I drove towards Nasarawa. There's one bridge that was coming. I took pictures as an engineer and forward to them. I say, hey, this thing is coming, come and do that. Come and fix it, because that's our responsibility. Even when I see water leaking, I take picture and forward to water board. Say, please come and fix it before it gets bad. I did that to all my people. And they came, fairness to them, did all the assessment, and then did the memo to higher authority, because they can't use their money to do that. And unfortunately, they couldn't do that until the whole place collapsed.
Wow.
And the road got blocked.
Yeah. Engineer Mame, closing thoughts. Briefly, we're running out of time.
The prayer is government should focus on engineering and engineers, because we have the capacity, and engineering is solution to all our problems.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll take sports right now. When we return, we'll sign up our guest.
Super Eagles striker Kelechi Iheanacho scored his second Premier League goal of the season, while Wilfred Ndidi provided an assist in Leicester City's 1-1 draw against Burnley in Wednesday's Premier League game. Iheanacho was handed his 6th league start, while his compatriot Ndidi was afforded his 14th Premier League appearance in the encounter, and both delivered an impactful performance. Leicester City found themselves on the back foot as early as the 4th minute, but the Nigeria internationals combined well to save the Foxes from a 3rd consecutive defeat.
To chip one over the top for Iheanacho. What a goal that is! Kelechi Iheanacho, brilliantly found by Ndidi, just knocked over the top, and Iheanacho watching the ball onto his left foot.
Iheanacho has now scored 5 goals and provided 4 assists in 24 appearances across all competitions. Another Nigeria forward, Moses Simon, was on target as North fell to a 2-1 home defeat against Rams in their League One clash also on Wednesday. Simon put the host ahead in the 14th minute, but the visitors equalized 6 minutes before the break. Rams later got the winner in the 89th minute. Simon has now scored 5 goals in 23 league appearances for Nantes this time. And in Italy, Simi Nwankwo scored the only goal in Crotoni's 5-1 away defeat against Atlanta. Nwankwo was on target in the 24th minute of the encounter. He has netted 8 times in 25 league appearances for Crotone this season.
All right, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. Just before we go, deep thanks to our two guests who have been with us in the course of the conversation on engineering for sustainable development on the occasion of the World Engineering Day, 4th of March 2021. Baba Gana Mohammed, President, Nigerian Society of Engineers, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
We also would like to appreciate Engineer Emeka Eze, former Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement, and also past President, Society of Engineers. Thanks a lot for your insight.
Thank you so much.
So that's it on Good Morning Nigeria. We're back tomorrow same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Salome.
And I'm Jumo Yosef.